Okay, so let's just dive right in. What we're about to unpack here is some of the most legendary and, truly paradigm-shifting advice for building a company. And look, this isn't just some abstract theory. This is the distilled wisdom from Y Combinator's iconic Stanford class, featuring heavy hitters like Sam Altman, Facebook co-founder Dustin Moskovitz, and of course, Peter Thiel.
And right out of the gate, we get hit with this bombshell for Peter Thiel: competition is for losers. Just let that one sit for a second. That single statement is designed to completely short-circuit everything you've ever been taught about business and capitalism. It sounds totally crazy, right? But stick with me here, because understanding this one idea is the key to everything else we're going to talk about. So I want you to ask yourself this. What if the real playbook, the one that the most successful founders actually follow, is the exact opposite of everything we're told? That's the core question we're digging into. We're going to try and strip away all the myths and get to the raw truth of what it takes to build something that lasts.
And that whole journey, well, it really has to start by confronting the very first question. Why are you even thinking about doing this? Because for most people, the motivation is built on a foundation of pure, unadulterated myth.
Dustin Moskovitz, who knows a thing or two about this from his time at Facebook, just lays it all out there. That fantasy of being your own boss, yeah, forget it. You're not the king, you're a servant to literally everyone. Your customers, your employees, your investors. And the flexibility you're dreaming of, it's a complete mirage. You are never, ever off. And if you think this is the best way to get rich, trust me, there are way easier and a whole lot less painful ways to make money.
Okay, so this leads to the obvious question, right? If the glamour, the freedom, the power, and even the money aren't good enough reasons, why on earth would any sane person put themselves through that kind of meat grinder? Well, it turns out there's really only one reason that can actually sustain you through all the pain. And this is it. For a lot of people, this is a total mind shift. The startup itself isn't the goal. It's just the tool. It's the vehicle you use to solve a problem that you just cannot stop thinking about. That obsession with the problem has to come first. The company, that's just a consequence of that obsession. Dustin Moskovitz describes this feeling in such a powerful way. It's not really a choice. It feels more like a compulsion. It's this deep feeling that an idea has to exist in the world, and for whatever reason, you're the person who's been chosen to bring it to life. That's it. That's the only force strong enough to get you through the absolute certainty of pain and stress. All right, so you found that deep, burning passion. That's the why. But passion by itself isn't enough. You also need the right what. So let's move on and figure out what a truly great startup idea actually looks like, because this is where things get even more counterintuitive. So first, we have to kill that old cliche that it's all about execution. Sam Altman argues that's just way too simple, and honestly, it's dangerous. A great idea isn't just some clever product. No, it's the entire strategic blueprint. It's thinking about the market, how you're going to defend your turf, and how you're going to grow. It's the difference between saying, let's build a better mousetrap, and saying, let's build an entire ecosystem for pest control that's so dominant no one ever needs another mousetrap again. Now, this is where it gets really, really interesting. The very best ideas, the ones that become these legendary, world-changing companies, they almost always look like bad ideas to most people at first. And there's a simple reason for that. If an idea sounded obviously good to everyone, it would already be a crowded market swarming with competition. I mean, just think about it. When Google came along, people were like, another search engine? We've already got 12. When Facebook started, it was just for college kids. They don't have any money. In Airbnb, the idea of sleeping on a stranger's air mattress was considered certifiably insane. All of these ideas looked terrible to the outside world, but the founders knew a secret. They were right. So how do you turn one of these terrible ideas into a powerhouse? Well, here's the method. You don't try to boil the ocean. You find a tiny, overlooked pond that nobody else cares about, and you become the undisputed king of it. You build a small-scale monopoly first, and only then, once you're dominant, do you start expanding outward from that position of strength. Okay, let's zoom all the way out. We've talked about the why, your motivation. We've talked about the what, the unique idea. Now let's get to the grand strategic end game. And this is where it all comes together, bringing us right back to Peter Thiel's explosive statement about escaping competition entirely. This right here, this is one of the most powerful mental models in all of business. Think about it like this. A company creates a certain amount of value for society, We'll call that X. And it captures a certain percentage of that value as profit. We'll call that Y. Now, the earth-shattering insight here is that X and Y are completely independent of each other.
And this slide just shows it perfectly. Back in 2012, the entire US airline industry created hundreds of billions of dollars in value, a massive X. But because it's a brutal, competitive bloodbath, they captured almost none of it as profit, a tiny little Y. Then you have Google, which created less total value, but as a search monopoly, it captured a huge slice of it. So, which one of those businesses would you rather own?
And this brings us to the ultimate point of all this. The goal isn't just to be a little bit better than your rivals. The goal is to be the only one, to build something so different, so unique that you don't even have any direct competitors. The goal is to build a monopoly. You know, we hear so much about first mover advantage, but Thiel flips that completely on its head. He says what you really want is to be the last mover, to be the company that so fundamentally owns a category that you become the final enduring word on the subject for decades to come. That's the real prize. And this explains why that long-term dominance is all that matters. For a successful tech company, almost 3/4 of its value comes from the profits that are projected more than 10 years into the future. It's not about winning next quarter. It's about owning the next decade.
So I'll just leave you with this final challenge from Peter Thiel. It's a question to reflect on. Are you just following the crowd, trying to rush through that same tiny, well-lit door with everybody else, fighting for scraps in a known market? Or are you looking for that secret insight, that hidden truth, that will let you open a vast gate that's all your own?